Eric Hope, welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me today here on the podcast. Quality Electric is your company. Why don't we start off with how you got involved in this industry? You've got an interesting story. It goes back to when you were a kid in school.
Yep. Yeah. So my seventh and eighth grade science teacher, shout out to Miss Shep. She was one of the best teachers I ever had, but she also had us do this project where we had batteries and light switches and little buzzers and bells and things like that. And we made it all work with the batteries and the chunks of scrap wire. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. And ever since then, I knew I wanted to be an electrician. So once I got to high school, we picked our own classes in high school. So I was able to stay on that path. And my school had a trade program. So I got to do my first couple of years of my apprenticeship through my high school. And I got a lot of hands-on experience and I learned a lot. So yeah, Miss Shep was at my wedding. She has a farm. She gave us our Thanksgiving turkey this year. And she's still a customer of mine. So I have a lot to repay Miss Shep for.
That is a phenomenal story. Most people don't
Yeah.
have that story. I'll ask someone, so how did you become an electrician? Well, my dad was, so I was. Or
Yeah.
I needed to make money and I just picked something. And
Yeah.
and so your story is fantastic. So your story about seventh and eighth grade, about wire switches, a whole bunch of things and so forth that inspired you. I have to tell this story about myself. When I think it was fourth grade, I had to do a project, and my father and I, mostly him, took this piece of plywood and we screwed a box to it, an electrical box for
Yeah.
a switch. Put a switch in it, put a plate on it, put a cover on it. Ran the wire, for power. And then there was a socket and we had a light bulb in it. And the project was, look, a switch. And that's all it was. Here I am in fourth grade and we're using relatively high power, right?
Yeah.
There was no low power back then. There was no
Yeah,
LED.
safety was different back then.
But yeah, it was, well, so if the kid gets shocked, he'll probably survive. But, and so I understand exactly the excitement, because there's something really neat about being able to do something and have something else happen in that circuit. Explain a circuit, because a lot of people don't know what that means. A circuit is simply what?
Yep, a path back to ground. Electricity is always looking for a path back to ground. Our job is to make that a safe path through your panel and not through a human's body or other piece of equipment. But that's pretty much how it works. That path goes through light bulbs or through the appliances that you plug in, things like that, and just goes back to ground.
You make it safe in people's homes. You do residential work. That means the homeowner you work directly with. And it's important that the switches and the outlets and the entire electrical system is grounded properly and wired properly. Sometimes the white and black are switched. That's a no-no. Sometimes they're like, do I have to have this bare copper wire attached to something? You probably should.
Yeah.
And no, you don't connect it to the white wire.
Yeah. Well, describing it as a system like you did is something that most homeowners don't think of it that way. It's everything in your home is a system. So people think, oh, I just want to change this light. I can probably do it myself, or I can change the switch. And yeah, you probably could. Doing that one task is pretty simple. But your electrical system includes everything: the wire, the breakers, the wire nuts that you use to splice. When we go and we change that switch, we're evaluating everything. We're not just changing that switch and ignoring all the other potential hazards that could be there.
Absolutely. A mistake that people make, a common one, is they use the outlet for an appliance, an item, which is generally an appliance. It's not rated for. So if your living room is wired for a lamp, okay, plug a lamp in is fine. If you have a big machine connected to it, even like a circular saw, right? When you crank that sucker up, right, the lights dim.
Yeah. Oh,
if you're running something long term, you could literally set the wires on fire and burn the house down.
Yeah, there's a lot of hazards. One of the reasons we got away from new construction and really just focus on service is a lot of the corners that a lot of the builders around here want people to cut One of that is undersizing wires for the outlet circuits like you're describing. They want you to run 15 amp circuits for outlets because it's a little bit cheaper. Well, that little bit makes a big difference because it doesn't even need to be a big appliance like a saw. A regular vacuum that you plug in is 12 amps. A space heater, those little fireplace decorative heaters everyone gets, those are 12 to 15 amps. So, one thing that you're plugging into this circuit could be, the difference between it tripping in the middle of the night or worse, the potential fire hazard there. So
Yeah,
that's one of the reasons we got away from that line of work.
I tell people a great indication that you might be doing something wrong is if you have to continuously reset the breaker.
Yeah.
It's tripped for a reason.
Yep.
Or the outlet's warm or hot.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. There are some scenarios, dimmer switches get a little warm. There's some specialty devices that get a little warm, but you should always be able to touch them. They should never be so hot you can't touch the face of your switcher outlet with your hand.
Well, let's talk about your business. Residential, the homeowner, near and dear to my heart. I am probably your typical customer. I'm a guy in my 50s. I'm married, have some kids, a dog, 3-car garage. And that's your customer, right? That's who you're looking for. Someone who's got a home that you can work on to make it safe and add things like, maybe they want a 3-way switch now.
Yep.
Okay. Which, by the way, really isn't a 3-way. It is a 3-way, but it's actually switches, right?
Yeah.
People are like, I don't understand. Where's the third switch? Well, there isn't one. But don't try to wire.
If there is, it's a 4-way.
Yeah, exactly. It is what it is. And so you can come in and do something simple. You can rewire an entire house, right? And if someone wants to put a specialty appliance in, maybe it's a refrigerator that draws a lot. Maybe they want it in their garage or another room. You can run a new circuit just for that, which you probably should.
Yeah. So we do everything that you just described. We're working in the customer. We have customers that just bought new homes, and the electrician that wired the home isn't interested in doing any of the stuff that you're describing. And that's where we come in a lot of the time. So adding switches where there aren't any, adding outlets where there aren't any, changing panels in older houses. We're in southern New Hampshire. There's a lot of really old homes here that still have fuses and knob and tube wiring and stuff like that. So taking care of those hazards. We also get some pretty severe winters up here, so power loss is a big issue. So we're doing a lot of generators, automatic and portable generators. So we're anything that the customer needs once the house is already done is our specialty.
I'm familiar with old houses. I owned a house outside of Providence, Rhode Island, that was built 1 year before we became a country, 1775. Of course, there was no indoor.
Well, that's new for around here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it is. There was no wiring back then, but they had obviously gone through at different times and plumbed it and wired it. But even so, the wiring was very old. There were still some fuses, the glass fuses and so forth. So someone has knob and tube. They had the old wiring. They have old fuses. You guys can rewire the whole thing with a new service panel with the right amps.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Panel changes, service upgrades, things like that. We do every day. Actually, some of the guys are out doing one today. So it's something that we do all the time, coordinating with the different utility companies. It takes a long time to build relationships with all the different utility companies, so how they like things and how things need to get done. So we take care of all that. Even for our generators, we can take care of the gas for the customer. So you don't have to coordinate with a bunch of different contractors, pay a bunch of different people. You just call us and we can get you all squared away, turnkey.
Eric, you've been building your business since 2018. Nice business. Where do you see your business in 5, 10, and 15 years?
We have we've seen a lot of growth the last couple of years, where there's a lot of people around that I see that try and go into like the multi-trade, add plumbing, HVAC and stuff like that. I just want to keep perfecting what we do now for the next couple of years. And then, the idea of having an HVAC or plumbing division sounds so great to me. One of the main reasons that sounds amazing is because it will allow us to better serve the customer, because almost 50% of the time when we leave a customer's house, they're also asking us for plumbing referrals and HVAC referrals. And it's taken a long time for us to build relationships. We have our neighbor, actually, right on the other side of the wall from me here, is an excellent plumber. And that's how we, build those relationships. But if we could help the customer even more by taking care of their plumbing needs and their HVAC needs, that would be something I would really like to do in the future.
it's very common to have what I call the, trifecta. You
Yeah.
hear about companies that, plumbing, electric,
Yeah.
HVAC, electric, plumbing, electrical, plumbing,
Yeah.
HVAC, whatever. Um, those are the three big ones, right? And
Yeah.
they're all connected, like you said, that they all work together versus saying, I'm an electrician, I'm a pool builder, and a roofer.
Yeah.
There's nothing there, right?
Yeah.
However, though, in those trades, those are highly educated. I mean, you
Yeah.
have to be trained, educated, you have to be licensed, skilled, permits. It's not just something you can just do like a
Oh,
handyman
absolutely.
does.
Yeah.
And what's nice about that is when you have everything in line and you're licensed and insured to do that, it's really nice when you're doing a project and you can cross over,
Yeah.
like you said. Someone wants to have a generator. Well, how are you going to power it? Well, it has to be natural gas or propane. Well, how are
Yeah.
you going to do that? If we're an electrician, are we really qualified to plumb that? In this case, yeah, you can do all that. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have all those. Plus, it's really great for your business and for all of you
Yeah.
contractors listening to this. It's great when you have a set of customers or clients
Yeah.
that are depending upon you and have depended upon you, and they're very loyal customers for your electrical business.
Yeah.
You tell them you can now do their plumbing and their HVAC business or something related. You're way ahead of the new plumber or HVAC getting into the business because you
Yeah.
already have the systems, you already have the customer, and they know, like, and trust you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. No, and I just want to, my thing is around here, it's a pretty kind of rural area here. There's only a few companies that are doing, specializing in residential service like we are.
Mm.
And as far as I know, we're the only one in our service area that's not a franchise or corporate owned or anything like that. So a lot, and those other companies do offer, the multi-trade. But what I find is the service is lacking. They become a sales organization and not a service organization. And our first core value is service. Providing the best service possible for all of our customers is my number one priority, and everyone on our team. So I would never want to start adding different services and until I'm sure that we're providing the top tier service, for electrical. That way, when we carry that over to plumbing or HVAC, that it's always, the top tier service that we could possibly provide.
As your company scales, it's going to be more and more difficult to offer the service you currently do. It's not impossible.
Yeah.
It becomes more difficult.
Yeah.
So if you're a one-man show, you're answering the phone, you're quoting,
Yeah.
and you're doing the work, you really know what's going on. So if there's a
Yeah.
customer complaint, the customer, you were there.
Yeah.
Okay. Then when you add, a truck here and a technician there, and it gets
Yeah.
bigger and bigger and bigger, you can still have very good customer service. Like
Yeah.
Amazon really has very good customer service for the size of the organization. It's a huge organization, and I believe they have excellent customer service for the size.
Yeah.
How will you do something different than the average company that scales, because it ends up being a sales organization? If we don't have
Sure.
our eyes on sales and profit, there
Of
is
course.
no way to serve the customer. So what do you have in mind right now that would allow you to scale that way, either quick or
Yeah.
slowly, and still deliver great quality customer service?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it just comes through caring. Our team, I think sales and service do definitely go hand in hand. And I think there's probably some times where you could interchange the word. We provide sales through service. When we're not selling the customer things, we're providing a service. We're giving them options and showing them what we could provide for them, which in turn is essentially a sale. But, not focusing on just selling a big ticket just to sell a big ticket when, the customer may or may not really need that, or using scare tactics like some people use around here to try and make some sales. Making sure that everyone that we have out there representing us shares the same qualities, and having trustworthy people here that are reflecting our image and our vision and our mission statement every time they go out there is something that's important to us.
And Eric, on that point, how do you attract the team member, the employee, that you're looking for that will execute that?
Yeah. That's a work in progress, which I think is probably for everybody. We recently so when we transitioned to residential service primarily, which was about October of last year, I actually lost everybody. We had about 5 guys, and I shouldn't say everybody. We for different reasons, we had a couple apprentices we had to let go because they weren't working out. Two of my licensed guys left to start their own companies. So all that I was left with was my right hand man, Clay. So I don't know if he's going to watch this, but I wouldn't be able to have been where I am now without Clay. He's been with me since 2018 when I started, pretty much. So after everybody left, we were super busy. We were swamped, and I sat him down, and this was on a Monday, and this was right after everybody left. And I said, "Look, this week is a nightmare. It doesn't matter if we work 100 hours this week. We're not going to stay caught up. So let's just work till Thursday, and then Friday we're going to game plan." And Friday we took half the day off, and we sat, and I was working out in my garage at the time. We sat in the garage. I told him that it doesn't change anything. We were in the process of transitioning to residential service. So I kind of, we talked it out with him. He was fully bought into what I was trying to do. And from then on, it was like a blessing in disguise, because I accidentally hired a couple of amazing apprentices who are super experienced, that we all have common interests. And I think we spend a lot of time together here, I guess is what I'm getting at. So the people that you spend 8 hours a day with, you need to also be able to share a beer with them if that's your thing, or play video games with them, or talk about football. You have to have common interests. Otherwise, every day you're just spending 8 hours with people that you wouldn't talk to outside of work. So I think it all starts with, everyone throws around the word culture, but to me, good culture is just everybody getting along and having things to talk about. That makes less grumpy employees, and everybody just kind of, rowing in the same direction.
We all need
kind of a rambling answer, but
yeah, we all need a good Clay, right?
Yeah.
Because when you have that person who is dedicated to you and the company and where it's going, it actually allows you to sleep well at night, because if for some reason you couldn't work for a week or two, then what, right? Who knows where everything is, and who's going to keep all of the pieces moving forward? So you talked about culture and team members, people. I know that you're familiar with Tommy Mello and how he develops people. So I was thinking of him when you were talking about that, playing games together, doing things together, learning about each other, being friends with them. And it's really important. He's done a very, very good job of growing his company and maintaining that small company culture feel. Even though it's really one of the largest home service companies in a very unlikely category of garage doors. Okay, $250 million company, just about. In garage doors. And he's been able to do that. Do you take from what he's done and plug it into your model?
Absolutely. So huge Tommy Mello fan. Even before I was doing the residential service stuff, I had still read his book. I was still listening to his podcast. I was still in his Facebook group. I was consuming all of his content. I just couldn't really implement it because we were doing the wrong type of work. And then once I switched and made all that stuff, then I could really start using what he had been teaching me through his podcast for years. And most of what I do is kind of molded after things that he's done. The one thing that is always in the top of my mind is when he said in order to build the company that you want, you have to have a dream that's so big that everyone else's can fit inside of it. And the reason that I left, I worked for a company for 8 years. That's where I learned the trade. It was an amazing company, amazing group of guys. If I didn't do this, I probably would have worked there forever. But the problem was that I was 28 when I left, somewhere in there, 28. I was working with guys that were in their 50s, and we were, equals. They obviously had way more experience than I did, but, as far as income, salary, we were equals. And if I didn't change something, I was going to be doing that forever. And still, the only way to earn more money would be more overtime. And I don't ever want my guys to feel like they've capped at such a young age when they're really in the peak of their earning time. I don't want them to feel like, oh, this is it for me. All I can do is ride this out until I can maybe retire. So building something that has unlimited potential for people is always top of mind for me.
Eric, do you have a goal of exiting your business one day? And I'm not talking about, when I'm 65 or 70 and retire. Okay, that's going to happen anyway. You'll be forced at some point to get out of the pace you're in. But are you one of these individuals say, you know what? in 5 years, we're going to be a $10 million company or 15 million or 5 million, whatever it is. And we have a plan to exit and do something else. What are your thoughts?
So I have a 3-year-old son, and my hope is to build a company that when he becomes of age, if he wants to go into the electrical field, I'm not saying that he, has to come into the family business or necessarily that he'll even be a good fit for it. But I'm trying to set things up so that when I'm ready to walk away, I either have built a business that can be sold because it's a machine that runs without me, or I can pass the keys on to the next generation and let it continue. So either way, I think that type of business should be built kind of the same, because I don't want to be handing something off to little Jackson that's a complete mess that he can't really fix and set him up for failure. And if I want to sell it, I have to set it up in a similar way. So kind of structuring things in that way so that someday there will be an exit is something that I think about too.
Does Jackson at 20, 21, 22, 23 years old have to be an electrician, or can he learn to be a business owner?
Yeah.
And you'll have a team by then.
Yeah.
And grow it and manage it.
Yeah.
But does he have to be a tech?
Probably not. There's great business owners all over the place that didn't start in the field, that they were in. I think it depends on, the person, the individual's personality, and if they can still relate to the people that are in the field, because I think it's difficult for somebody to tell, these techs what to do or what they should be doing when they've never done it themselves,
Yeah.
So as long as they can still, relate, then I think they don't need to have an electrical background.
Yeah. I think it's always good to have done the job. Even the royal family, the princes, they were in the military, right? They served time that they flew helicopters and stuff.
Yeah.
Cool, right? And here they are royalty, but it's kind of nice to know that the royal family at the top can relate to the people who are protecting the country.
Yeah. And that's also goes down, that kind of trickles downhill too, to like the sales techs that are out in the field. I tell my guys that I won't have you in someone's home selling to them if you can't also roll up your sleeves after and do the work, because I'm not saying that they have to always do the work, because we do have people that are installing jobs that someone else sold, but the homeowner, in my opinion, will feel more comfortable talking to someone and trusting someone who knows how to do the work and can do it and understands everything that's involved. So I think understanding all the different components to the business is definitely crucial.
I agree. It really keeps the business intimate and small, even though it's large.
Yeah.
And so it's really important, right? If you are technically able to talk about a problem and sell it and run the company, even, you're a lot more valuable. And I think it would be great for everyone who is in management and sales, or most of them, to have some experience in the field with the homeowner customer, with being technical, even if they're not licensed. Maybe they've just shadowed and they have an idea and they can talk the right terms. Because if you have a homeowner who knows more than you do about a circuit,
it's not a good look.
It's bad for the company. So I've done this before, buying cars and trucks, go to the dealership, and I'm like, this sales guy doesn't know as much as I do.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I don't even know if, maybe Jackson, my son, won't even be interested in it, or maybe he doesn't want to be an owner. Maybe he'll like working in the field, who knows, what the future will hold. So I'm just trying to set things up so that I have options when I'm ready, to walk away or to move on to something else, I should say. And I think it's just important, that he has options, because we had a lot of people that when I was growing up, their parents owned companies. One of them was an electrician. His parents owned this company and he wanted nothing to do with it. And I remember sitting in electrical school thinking like, oh, what are you doing? You have this amazing opportunity that you can just step right up into it. And he wanted nothing to do with it. So.
Yeah. Well, we're all different.
Yeah.
We all have different dreams we want to live. I do what I do, and I love doing what I do, and I've gotten good at it. And I think that if we get good at what we do, we like it even more. So there's
Yeah.
nothing worse than being pushed into something saying, well, my grandfather was a dentist, my dad was a dentist, and they want me to be a dentist. Well,
Yeah.
I don't want my dentist not happy.
Yeah. Yeah. And business ownership's not for everybody. I didn't even realize, how, many sacrifices you'd have to take and, the stress that you'd have to deal with all the time that you can't turn off. You have to have a way to cope with all that, or else, it's just, it'll take its toll on you.
No, it will. It's not for everybody. You're right.
Yeah.
And it can be extremely stressful. The team members, the employees come first. So do the
Yeah.
customers. Arguably, you've got two sets of customers. You've got the people who pay you, and then you've got your team members.
Yeah.
And generally, especially early on, the last person to get paid is the owner. The last
Yeah.
person in the office is the owner.
Yeah.
The owner's working 7 days a week, 15, 16, 17 hours a day, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And they get the least. However, they have to have passion for what they do.
Yep.
And the ultimate goal should be, I'll get paid back later.
Yeah. 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 We're still, in our growth phase here. So that's one of the things I tell myself, when I'm up at 4:15 in the morning, getting ready to go to work, that, we're working towards something here. So it's not for nothing.
Eric from Quality Electric, thank you so much for joining me today on the program. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.